Actually, this interview was recorded about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and just because a few things were happening on the website in the last few weeks, I haven't had a chance to put it up. But it was a recording of just a conversation that I had with a gentleman from Canada called Al. I haven't had a chance to get back to him since we recorded the session, so I don't know how he is at the moment. I hope you're doing well, Al. At the time, he was off the alcohol for about 4 days, so have a listen to the interview, and I'll see you at the end. No, so I mean, if I say, well, yeah, okay, you're the first person that's been on the podcast, so welcome aboard, Al from Canada. So yeah, you were asking me about my son, and he's 23, and it's the worst thing for me at the moment because he still drinks, you know. I've just asked him tonight. I had a conversation with him and asked him whether he wants to read my book, you know. So he said, yeah, cool, you know. So I have to send that across to him now and see how that goes down. But it's hard. It's a hard conversation to have with him, you know.
I can only imagine. I mean, we just had a wonderful summer here. We're starting to hit the fall.
Yeah.
And we had a family reunion. And the reason I asked about your son, I have a son who just turned 19 months old. Oh. And so, yeah, he's a toddler. He's toddling. Now, I'm 42.
Yeah.
So I'm 42 years old. I've got this young child, and I've got to stay energetic, and I've got to keep my head about myself. Where I want to bring this story in is we're sitting around the family reunion, and my kid reaches for my beer bottle, you know, and he wants to pull it towards his mouth, and some of my family are pointing, saying, "Oh, look at that! He wants to be like Daddy." And inside, it just broke my heart to see that, because it brought up images of, and I don't even remember this, but my dad took a lot of videos, you know, with a Super 8 back in, I guess, late 70s. And I was watching some home videos a few years ago and seeing us kids in the yard drinking our Kool-Aid out of like these little brown stubby beer bottles.
Yeah.
And that brought a memory of mine. I wanted to, you know, be just like Daddy. And so bringing that now back to the present, I'm at my family reunion and I'm seeing my son reaching for my beer bottle. I thought, you know, is that what he's going to aspire to? You know, is that what being an adult is all about? Is the right to be able to drink alcohol all the time, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know why it went off into that direction.
No, absolutely. I mean, I wish I'd had those thoughts when my son was 19 months, you know, definitely. You know, if we could go back, and I know I always say this, like, there's no way I can go back and there's no point in regrets or anything like that, but you know, it's I wish I had the opportunity now to sort of try and steer him away from it, you know. But I still have, you know. So
sure, but I mean, you would have been a younger father than I am. I'm in my early 40s.
Definitely,
and I've had time to reflect on this. I've had time to analyze my drinking over the last 20 plus years.
Absolutely.
And, you know, start realizing, hey, where is this heading? And what purpose is it serving? Is it bringing me towards the things I want in life, or is it bringing me further away?
Yeah.
You know, and that's actually how I stumbled across your information, which I think is just, you've got a great site and some really good videos. I like the way they're put together because they really speak to me. You know, I'm outdoorsy. I'm outdoorsy. I hike and whatnot, and I see you out there, you know, being alive and active and discussing this topic that I'm seeking information on. You know, I'm at that place where I know I need to make a choice, and we can get into the specifics a little bit, you know, as far as when I started and any questions you may have. But I mean, for right now, I quit smoking in the year 2000.
Yeah.
And I tried very, very hard to quit smoking. And it was only until I read enough books and educated myself to the point where it was like a switch just clicked in my brain and it no longer made sense to smoke. And I suppose that's what I'm doing now with my excessive alcohol consumption is I'm just looking for information. That's why I stumbled across your blog, and that's why I'm happy to be chatting with you.
Yeah, cool.
Here today.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing with cigarettes, but it was only three or 4 years that I've managed to stay off, and that was the hardest thing for me. It was a difficult thing, huh? You know, how long did you smoke yourself?
Well, I started smoking when I was 14, and so I like, ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Just kids smoking. So
Yeah.
I smoked a lot of years.
Yeah, same as myself.
I was just saying it was up to about a pack a day, and I was trying to be active in the martial arts. I would notice my conditioning. I'd start getting the chest pains as I was running or training, and then I would cut back, and it would get better, and it just sort of yo-yoed back and forth until I finally just said, "This is enough's enough."
Enough's
There's
enough,
nothing
yeah.
positive about this. And I guess that's where I have a bit of a challenge with drinking, because I do a bit of writing myself online, and I've researched alcohol, and you know what it's like when you're researching something and you've already got the conclusion in your head. Drinking alcohol isn't that bad for you. There could be some health benefits. So you go researching, and that's all you find, right? Because you ignore any other data to the contrary.
That's all you want to see, yeah. Yeah, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say I fell in. We'll get a rhythm here pretty quickly. Yeah. I was just saying I fell into that trap of seeking 2 glasses of wine a day are perfectly healthy. They're good for you. Look at the French, and their cardiovascular disease. And I don't know. I still have a lot to learn.
I think there's a lot more information about cigarettes and smoking, and I don't think there's any doubt nowadays that cigarettes are bad for you. Completely. So I think it's easier for people to knock the cigarettes on the head rather than I'm living in Spain, and everyone drinks wine here, but they drink it in a completely different way. They might have a glass of wine with the dinner, or I've been here for 3 years and I haven't seen one drunk person since I got here. So,
wow.
It says a lot. I've seen drunk people, but they're English or Irish.
Tourists.
No Spanish. Well, there's where I'm living in Alicante. There's big communities of people from the island, so from England and Ireland. And so if I don't go down there often, I prefer to be around the Spanish, to be honest. But when you do go down there, that's when you see the people acting up and drunk and stuff. But the Spanish just don't do that, And I think they consume, in general, a large amount of wine, but it's just drank in a different way for some reason. So, I don't know. I've got nothing against wine or booze in itself. I just, for myself, it was just the way I started out, and I don't think I could ever control that again, so.
Well, and you bring up an interesting point there, the way they drink it. They would have one maybe at lunchtime with their meal, but their next drink wouldn't be alcoholic.
No, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. I've seen the Spanish drinking in the morning, with they get a small little coffee called a carajillo, and it's just a shot of espresso with a shot of brandy in it. And then they go off and they do their work and stuff. But it's like you say, it's spaced out. There's not this big desire to get drunk or anything. It's just used as part of daily life. So, yeah.
And see, I guess that's where I keep fooling myself, is I think, okay, I can go to that place where I can have 2 a day.
Yeah.
But then I look back and I've had 16 beer, spaced out throughout the day, or worse when I work for myself.
Yeah.
Because no one's around to sort of look at you and say, hey, what are you doing? So for me, it's like when I open that first one, it usually means every single drink I will have for the rest of the day will be some type of an alcoholic beverage.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's the same with myself. I think it's just the way we were brought up, and that's, yeah. I think once that's in your psyche, sort of thing, it's difficult to because once you get into that first drink, then it automatically leads you on to the second one and the third one, and God knows how much I've tried to moderate. I think everyone that comes to the site has tried moderation to some degree or another. Yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Even I'll give you an example of the very recent past. I just said to myself, enough is enough. I've got deadlines to do for work. I work for myself, so I've got, I don't have a steady paycheck coming in. If I don't have results, I don't get money.
Yeah.
And I wasn't getting results, and I realized, well, it's the summertime here, and we have people visiting. It's there's nice lakes here, and so people come here for 2 weeks to party and have a good time, and then they go away, and then your other friends show up or relatives, and now they are here. They want to party and have a good time, and so in living out here, I seem to, I'll use that as an excuse. It's nobody's fault but my own. First of all, I want to say that. I'm not saying, I told that story about I was drinking beer out of a stubby beer bottle as a kid, and I saw my dad drinking. Usually, most of the time when he did something, doing yard work, he had a beer. Back in the late 70s, early 80s, if we were driving somewhere, he'd have a beer. Drinking and driving wasn't the stigma that it is today.
Of course, yeah.
And I would just see him, I would see him have a beer, but he would nurse him. He wouldn't, I wouldn't see him drunk, unless it was like a family get together or something like that. So I'm not blaming my dad. I'm not, maybe I learned that behavior, but I'm an adult. I mean, gosh, I should be able to shut my eyes and open them and see where I'm at and accept responsibility for where I am and realize that every choice I make is my choice alone. It's not, I can't blame my past. It seems like too much of a cop-out.
No, I think there's a difference between sort of excusing your past. I mean, the thing that I've sort of been thinking about lately is that once you get to 18, it's nearly an automatic thing that you go out and drink, because we take it for granted. It's not like it's you don't do drugs the same way. Everyone is taught about drugs, and you're taught that drugs are bad. But drink is just a completely different thing. And it's only when you get older and you start having problems that you sort of realize, well, Jesus, this thing is, it's getting a hold of me now, So, I think from that perspective, there's no blame involved, but, and no excuse. But at the same time, it's, there is sort of, there's reasons for it.
I mean, I've been collecting information on this for a while, as I mentioned. I think it was out of a Men's Health magazine. I read an article, and there was a quote in there. Apparently, it's a Japanese proverb. It's something like, first the man takes a drink, then the drink takes a drink, then the drink takes the man. Yeah. And I remember reading that thinking, okay, what stage am I at? Right now it's just me choosing to drink. But at this stage now, after, living on my own for 22, 23 years, around noon, especially in 2006, I stopped working for a company and started doing projects on my own in construction and drywall finishing, and that's sort of area. And being on my own, I could drink more if I wanted to, if nobody was around. And I feel silly even saying this, but come the afternoon, 12, 1, 2 o'clock, I really do get a thirst, in my gut, and I can drink as much water as I want. It's not going to go away unless I pound a couple of beers quickly. Yeah. And I mean, that's been going on for years. And so I think to myself, I don't want this stuff to take me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I understand. I was in forestry in Ireland before I left, and sort of exactly the same thing. You'd have the thirst. I mean, it was towards the. I stopped drinking about 5 years ago because I had a DUI, so I had to get my act together. Then it was sort of. It was only then that I started realizing that it was just the thirst. I understand what you're saying about the psychological element of it, but I get where you're coming from. It's a hard thing to overcome, definitely.
Well, and I started telling you a story about just recently. I said enough's enough, and I went cold turkey, nothing. I went 4 days. I was journaling. I was speaking to somebody else, as I mentioned. I'm being more open about this. Yeah. I was speaking to somebody else who's not a qualified counselor. I haven't gone to any 12-step meetings or anything. I hope I'm not lying to myself, but I'm positive in my head that I can do this on my own. But back on point, I started journaling every morning, and she had me before I went cold turkey. She said, "Al, every time you're going to take a drink, just write down what you're thinking. What are you feeling? Yeah. Why are you doing this or whatever?" And I started noticing some patterns of, and that's depending on people who are listening to this. If there's anyone out there who's where I am right now, do yourself a favor and journal. And you'll recognize, perhaps the way I did, that there are patterns of like justifying, I deserve this. It's a reward. I'll just have one or two and then I'll go back to drinking water or tea or coffee, whatever. And it's a lie, And so when you force yourself to write it down and you see it and then you read, okay, all my justifications, I said I would only have two and then I would go back to water or something towards the evening. And it didn't happen. But you don't care, right? Because tomorrow's another day.
No, absolutely.
And tomorrow's another day. And you repeat these mistakes. And sorry, I could ramble.
No, I think the journaling is great. That's a great idea. There's a guy called I'm trying to think of this. There's a book called Opening Up by James Pennebaker, and he's talking about that, about just writing down your feelings and stuff. And he's talking about not only addictions, but with people with depression and all sorts of conditions. And the book is brilliant. He's talking about the healing power of just sort of expressing your emotions. Yeah, definitely journal. I mean, for me, it was at the beginning was the video journal. That's what I intended with the first few videos, was just to sort of write things or talk things out to myself,
Yeah, no, whatever medium works for you but I guess it's a method of getting honest with yourself. A lot of people don't realize you've got these stories you tell yourself, and it's literally untruths, and those are the ones that when you tell them to yourself, those are the ones that keep you in bondage. You got to stop lying to yourself. And I guess that's what put me on this journey to seek out information, and then, being fortunate enough to stumble across your information, and then being fortunate enough to be able to talk out these things, with yourself in this medium. I know you're not a specific counselor or anything, but I already feel that opening up like this is
absolutely. I mean,
clarify things even further.
You were saying that you looked into dry out clinics and stuff like that. It's an expensive way to go.
Well, I mean, that's a solution that's out there. I've got a friend who also overconsumes, and we were talking about going to some meetings and stuff like that. And it's strange. I can acknowledge and admit to a lot of things, but I don't think I'm ready to take that plunge yet. I mean, on my 4th day of not drinking at all, and this was just last week, I felt great. And then a different friend comes over. Oh, hey, how are you doing? And this was the kind of friend that, if you went to the fridge and pulled out a beer, she'd give you a dirty look. But it would only be if you weren't offering her one as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So she'd come over, talk about old times, and I had one. That's it. And so I felt okay that I still had that one. The very next day, it just went out the window.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, so you talk about problems that a person can experience from drinking too much, and you had at least one DUI anyways.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I've never done damage to myself. I worked in forestry for a lot of years, and all the accidents, injuries that I ever had were all to do with alcohol, being drunk, So, and then the DUI, and really it was my son that drove me to stop. He's sort of the person that I have in my mind when I'm doing a lot of the research and videos, and he'd be the one that I'm trying to talk to when I'm doing the videos, although I don't think he's looked at many of the videos, so it feels weird.
I'm sure there'll be a time when he goes through all of them one by one.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So I mean, how do you feel about your own? You have a boy?
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you think about that when you get older, sort of thing? And
well, I mean, certainly, I don't want to. Yeah, I love my dad, and I really appreciate a lot of the things my dad's done for myself and family, whatnot. And so I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying bad stuff about him, but I don't want to have my son have the same image that I had of my dad, just sort of always having a beer in his hand.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
Now, perhaps my dad could drink to a point where it didn't affect him that bad. He's in his very early 70s. He still has his mental faculties. He still performs consultation work. So it's not like it cooked his brain or anything.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I didn't get that gene from him or whatever it was, or maybe this generation is lazier. I don't know what it is. I just seem to have more of a challenge with it than he does. So when you ask about my kid, I don't want I don't want to perpetuate any cycles, and not to say that. See, obviously I need to read a few more books because there's some things going on that I don't quite understand, but I just can't get over this feeling that I can stop it myself. And I also recognize that I don't want my son to struggle. You don't want your kids to struggle, and I don't want them to even start to get to the point where I'm at. I mean, like, I guess I was always thinking I would probably get picked up for a DUI or two, or be in a bad accident. And actually, when I was younger, I did wreck a couple of cars, but I mean, I was the only vehicle involved. No injuries, didn't hurt anybody else. Thank God. I mean, I've been so lucky the amount of times that I drove under the influence.
Yeah.
I mean, to have on my conscience, I can't imagine being under the influence and, say, you know, causing an accident where there's fatalities, you know, and you got to live with that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm so fortunate, and I express gratitude towards that I haven't had that. But just the magnitude of, you know, thinking about my son and the impression that I give upon him. How do I want my son to look at me? You know, I want to be proud of me and see a man that's under control, that's not letting some substance take away from our experiences together.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, my dad was never the same. You know, he was not a heavy drinker. He stopped drinking now. And he says it's because I've encouraged him and stuff, which I'm glad about. I mean, he's in his
awesome.
He's in his early 80s. But I don't think there was the same pressure then to quit when our parents were young. I think there's an awful lot more marketing and advertising, and everywhere you go now, it seems to be that pressure to drink more and more and go out and get drunk, you know. So, but I'm in the same situation as yourself. I've crashed a few cars several times, and I'm just thank whoever that there was nobody else involved, you know.
So, and I don't want that. I don't want it to come across like I'm looking for a big excuse, a big reason, you know, that I go out and do injure somebody and have to live with some guilt. I mean, I don't want that. You know, I've got enough challenges as it is. I mean, I don't need that on my mind. What I do need is, like, here's an example. I quit for a week, and then I feel my memory improving. Definitely have more energy. I'm whistling in the morning, and why wouldn't I want that all the time? You know, why do I allow this pattern to recreate itself? You know, and I find myself, I'm by myself, I've got some work to do, and, well, why not just go get a 6-pack really quickly, and that'll help the work go by, or some stupid excuse like that. It's
just, I think it's so embedded into the way that we've been brought, not by our parents, but the way everyone else is, our peers, that it's an automatic thing. I think if it was any other drug, we wouldn't be doing it. You know, we'd sort of have this, we'd have the knowledge in the back of your head that it's bad. But with alcohol, it's just, I don't know. There's something there that stops people from even acknowledging it. It's like with all you were saying earlier on about the health benefits of the wine, and we truly believe that. You know, for me, it was just. I'd gone too far with it. I think 75-80% of people who quit drinking do so on their own, and I think a lot of people do it once they get to their middle age. They get past their 40s and 50s, and just start copying onto themselves. Really, I think that's part of the reason. You know, so there's hope for us yet. You know.
Well, I definitely have. Some work to do, but I'm telling you, I mentioned, like, the earlier week when I did cut down. On the 5th day I had a little bit, the 6th day I totally screwed it up, and then, you know, since then I haven't really tried again, you know, to go cold turkey, so to speak, and that's my intention for today. And I was getting a lot out of that journaling, and that's not something that you've told me to do or anything like that. That's just something I took up on my own. But I like that. I like the energy. I'm going to go forward from today and give it another shot. Like, that's encouraging when you mention that, you know, 70-75% of the people.
It's a lot of people. Yeah, I think there's very few people that do it. That actually do it with. I can't remember the statistics now, but I think there's fewer than 10% actually do it successfully while they're going through a program or something like that. That most people do it on their own. I suppose it's because they're making the changes themselves. They're making the adjustments in their own life, and they're going to stick a lot firmer. You know, they're going to be when you do your own changes. Well, you know, when it's sort of, you feel like it's forced when somebody else is is doing the work for you. If there's a lot of people that take, I can't remember what the drug is called. Is it some anti-abuse or something? But it's, once they stop taking it, they're back to square one again. And it was always the same with AA for me. When I heard that some people go to AA and they're there 20 years later. It wasn't something for me that was a success. So I don't know.
See, and I don't want to put down AA or anything like that, because I haven't gone there, and I don't. But for me, it's like I've got enough going on in my life. I don't need another social club. And not to say that that's what it is.
Absolutely.
I don't want to come across that way. And if different strokes for different folks. If that works for somebody, I say have at her. Go to every meeting you can. And I've known people in my youth. Like when I grew up, it was a small town, not a lot of activities here in the resource area in Western Canada. And the kids would get together and drink on the weekends. It's just, 13, 14, 15, you were getting your booze. And that was my peer group. That's, so perhaps that influence certainly had something to do with it. But you can only you set up a pattern, but you're always, it's a trap to think, and this is just obviously my opinion, it's a trap to think that you're, because I'm habituated to something, that's the way it always has to be. Of course not.
No.
At any given moment, you can liberate your future and make choices, better choices.
Absolutely.
And I've always claimed to dedicate my life to continual self-improvement in all these different areas of my life. But then when it comes to this one thing, it's still there.
Yeah, that's the same, exactly the same thing with me. I've always read self-help books and, listened to people who I thought were, had something to teach me. But then, no matter how much I planned to do things and to try and implement plans in my life, the alcohol would get in the way, the big hangovers the next day, and then it can get really out of hand. I think mine was getting really out of hand. So yeah, but I think what you were saying earlier on about the 14, 15-year-olds, that's a common thing that happens with drinkers. People with drinking problems is they start drinking very early. And I don't know, I found that a lot of the social skills that I was supposed to learn when I was a kid, I didn't learn because I was drinking instead of sort of learning, if you understand what I mean.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think, that we just miss out on so much because it's classified as a normal thing to do. So
that's a huge point there, because I want to make this point is, like I mentioned, my family reunion that I went to, and I saw that as a selfish excuse to start drinking in the morning and just let myself go. I've got no responsibilities. There's no internet connection out there. I don't have to do anything, right? No emails. And I spent pretty much the majority of time drinking. I brought a lot of booze, and I brought a lot to share, because we were out camping, right, out in the forest here, and I drank it pretty much most of what I brought myself.
Yeah.
And what's my point is, I came away from that family reunion. I don't remember as much as I would have liked to. Then, and how much are you truly living then? If you, I could have done that differently. I see that now, and that was only just a little while ago. So I suppose going forward, how can I live this next year better? And it certainly involves drinking a lot less. Yeah. And maybe even none,
But I think that the hardest thing is going to these things where other people are drinking. I mean, going to meals or family reunions, or, just the normal going out with your partner or whatever it is. I think that's the hardest thing. Once you can get over that, and sort of understand that you don't have to drink. It's not something that you need to do. That was the hardest thing for me in the first few. You walk into a place and you were so used to getting a glass of wine or a bottle of beer with your dinner that it was, and then all of a sudden you're getting this water. It's not giving you any satisfaction, but it's all in the head, really. It's, my brother comes over now he was in Canada actually for a while, in Vancouver, and he's back in the UK now, but when he comes down to visit us, I was his go-to person for chilling out and relaxing, because we'd go out and drink 15 or 20 pints and, just get pissed for the night. And now he's sort of, he doesn't do it anymore, When he comes down, we sit around. He might have a couple of glasses of wine, but I've no problem with it. And, I just drink my water or tea or whatever. And, I think it stops him from drinking as well, So it's a good influence.
It's good to be on the other side of that spectrum then.
Yeah. It's I just notice how much of a difference not having alcohol, not drinking, and just having those days and no more hangovers. And there's a great book by a fellow called Alan Carr. Have you read that one?
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
How to Control Your Drinking, and he talks about all the excuses. I drink to relax, or I drink to be in company, or I'm thirsty, and he just breaks apart everything. It's really good. I mean, the guy's, I think he died a few years ago, but it was something to do with the drinking anyway. But if you one book I'd recommend to anyone, it would be that one, Alan Carr.
Alan Carr, and it was called How to Stop Drinking?
How to Control Your Drinking. I'm trying to look for it now. There's one called...
I'm taking a note of it right now.
Yeah, I think it's How to Control Your Drinking. Yeah, if you put in Control Your Drinking by Alan Carr, it's ALLEN CARR is his name.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good book. He's done some books on smoking as well, but the same sort of same premise.
You made an interesting point there. You were talking about hanging out with your brother, and you'd go out and do a bunch of drinking, but now you're living a more health conscious lifestyle, and you're not drinking at all, and so it's curbed his drinking. One thing that's neat about surfing the World Wide Web and finding groups or sites like yours is you're going to be chatting with or associating with people that are like-minded, that they have this goal. Maybe I'm just kind of kidding here, but if you had like a Skype or a Google Hangout or something where you'd hang out on Friday nights with some people and not drink,
yeah,
that might help them out.
The technology is there, isn't it, to do it now?
But then you'd be stuck with all these people struggling.
Yeah, I think because my partner still drinks, she'd have a couple of glasses of wine every night, and I think she'd have something to say about that.
See, and that's where I count my blessings. I'm a genuinely lucky man. My wife maybe drinks 2 drinks a week, if that.
Yeah.
And, because I do not need any help. Like, if she drank a lot, I wouldn't even be having this call with you. I'd be thinking about 1 or 2 hours from now having my first beer.
Yeah.
So I'm, she does everything for the child, and we've even had conversations where, and I know she doesn't want to bring it up because it's a touchy subject with me. Is how much I drink, and it's a hot button. I guess I'm ashamed of it. When you just get right down to the numbers, like if you actually wrote down how much you drank and then how much does it cost, we haven't even discussed how much it costs, but having a young family, I mean, there's things that the money could be spent on in better ways than going out pretty much every day for a while there and spending $25 on a case of beer.
Yeah.
Because it's expensive here in Canada. We pay a lot of taxes. I know you guys pay a lot of taxes too. I'm not going to start comparing.
Here it's cheap. No, I mean, in Spain, alcohol is dirt cheap. I mean, in Ireland, it's very expensive. But in Spain, that's not the issue. You can get a gallon of wine here for €2 or €3. So, that was never the issue here.
Wow.
Yeah, but like I say again, it's a part of their life. It's not. They just don't drink the same way. I imagine that. I think the young people are starting to abuse alcohol now, but it's because of the advertising. It's because of Facebook, and I suppose it's peer pressure more than anything else. So
sure.
I don't know.
I was just going to say, I've noticed some advertising getting pretty devious, how they're sneaking commercials onto YouTube and, with product placement and other things like that. It's more subtle,
yeah.
And for those companies to be using these genius sociologists or whoever they get to figure out how to compel people to buy, to be using that and targeting the youth. I think that's That's absolutely terrible.
They have you can download apps from I suppose Smirnoff or the big liquor companies, and you go into you take the app into the pub, and then you can scan your phone, and you get a discount on the drinks of the night. So
Wow.
and then they can tell where you are. They've got I don't know. I don't even pretend to understand how they do it. I suppose it's satellite tracking. They know where the phone is, so they can figure out where you are and send you messages saying, well, there's another pub down the road that's doing 3-for-1 deals or something like that.
Wow.
So it's sort of insidious. And that for me is the biggest fear. Is that my son is a heavy drinker as it is, but one of the biggest fears for me is that this thing is just going to get worse, because nobody looks at it like a drug, like as it is, and the alcohol industry don't want it recategorized as a drug, so they just want it to be the normal part of everyday life that it is now at the moment. So I fear what it's going to be like in the next 10 or 15, 20 years,
Yeah. Well, I mentioned before when I was starting to recognize I needed to make some smarter changes when it pertains to my consumption. I started collecting information, and I have this. It's not a book, but it's a collection of papers or articles, and one of them talked about, okay, if you consume 5 drinks a day for so many years, this is the health problem you can expect. If you drink 8 drinks a day, and it breaks it down to how many you drink, and once you get to 10 or more, you're looking at some serious problems. Like it's not likely you're going to dodge the bullet and not have something serious like scarring of your liver, cirrhosis. I mean, I won't even get into the whole gamut of things, not to mention the risk of accidental deaths through car accidents or falling off a cliff or doing something stupid, making a poor choice because your decision making abilities are impaired. But that alone is scary, and then to think that people are being conditioned to consume that amount. I mean, what is the healthcare? The pharmaceutical companies involved in it too? Because they're going to get their piece of the pie when they have to start prescribing medications. I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I'm being a little silly there.
No, I definitely think that it's all. I mean, you're talking about people looking for the alcohol gene, and these are scientists who are dedicating large chunks of their life to looking for this thing, and to me the only reason they're doing it is so that they can sell a pill at the end of the day to say, well, here's the alcoholic gene and we've got the cure for it, so and I don't believe any of that stuff. I'm very cynical that way. So
what fascinates me the most right now at this particular place on the path where I'm at is just what happens psychologically when I make the decision to go grab that next drink. Because right now it's early in the morning for me. It's just about 10 a.m. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. You don't know me. I haven't consumed anything yet today. I don't plan on it.
Yeah.
But at some point soon, I know I'm going to get that tempting thirst, and then there's going to be thoughts that bubble up into my brain, like popcorn. Here's a thought. Hey, one won't hurt. I can switch to water afterwards. I can do this. And there's going to be that moment when I make a choice. And I say that using my words carefully. It's my choice. It's anybody that's listening to this, it's their choice to reach out for that next one. So what happens to cause somebody to either drink or not drink? What has to occur for a person? And I suppose it's maybe personal for all of us, something slightly different or whatnot, but
absolutely,
I mean, that's something I'm going to be facing here in a few hours.
Yeah, I think but it is all down to what you say. It's the voice in your head, listening to your own voice, and it's the first step is really sort of understanding it and knowing that it's happening. I mean, most people don't even know that that's going on. They just it's just a regular flow, and it happens, isn't it?
Well, I remember reading this article, and it was either written from Mexico. It was a Spanish article. I don't read Spanish. It was translated, but they talked about lombreses. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word correctly, but it basically translates to worms.
Yeah.
And their thoughts are you have some worms in your head that cause you to drink, and you just need to. And so I mean, I'm not doing the article justice, but it kind of explained a little bit how it's, oh, okay, yeah. You've got these things that are forcing you to drink, and once those things are out of your head, you won't have the need to drink again.
Yeah.
And it was kind of bizarre. When I thought about that before I mentioned it, I thought it would contribute to the conversation more than it did.
Well, I think it's. I used to always think that I used to picture the Gollum from the Lord of the Rings. This is what once I was quitting. I mean, somebody was talking about the alcohol voice in your head, and that's what I pictured it as. You know, being this horrible little sneaky bastard, you know, that I was slowly killing, you know. So, and he was the one that was speaking to me and going, "Go on, one drink won't do you any harm," you know. So, and I think that sort of helped me was. I mean, I'm big into visualization, that kind of thing, anyway. But yeah, there's a guy. Have you heard of NLP?
Yeah, neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah, there's a guy called Richard Bandler, and he was talking about the same sort of thing. He said if you've got this voice in your mind, normally it's this bitching voice that's going, "Go on, please, have one." He said change it to Daffy Duck or something, you know, and he said it doesn't have the same ring to it, you know. So
well, I can actually see the power of, and I'm going to use that too, probably, as some form of the idea of a golem sitting on my shoulder, whispering into my ear, and because it is an evil character. Like for me, I'm not speaking about anybody else's experience with alcohol, but for me, have that one, I'm going to have another, I'm going to have another, I'm going to have another. The end result is I don't get nearly the amount of things done that I need to today. Yeah. If I've got a glow on when I go to play with my son, I won't be as energetic. So, I mean, the quality isn't what it could be. It detracts, it takes away, it's like almost like a cancer that sort of eats away at the experiences of my life or what I'm able to accomplish in a day. And, you know, what you do day to day, I mean, those days stacked up upon each other, that's your life. And this isn't some friggin' dress rehearsal where, you know, okay, I'm going to start my life in a few days, a few weeks, a few months. No, it's now. You know, a huge impact a mentor made in my life one day. He said, imagine you're holding a bunch of cards, playing cards, and you can't see every day you wake up, you take one card, you flip it over. And you wake up the next day, you flip one card over. He says each card represents a day in your life. He says the problem is you don't know how many cards you're holding. He said, you could go to turn up a car tomorrow and there's nothing there. You're dead. And I mean, it's, as silly as that sounds, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. So how we live today, I think is so important. And I probably sound preachy now and like I'm rambling.
No, I think definitely. I think that's you just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, do you? You know, it's one of the things.
So that's where I want to get back to this idea of this guy sitting on your shoulder whispering. I love that idea of you mentioning Gollum because it is an evil, insidious creature that.
But weak as well, you know. It's that for me the character was just so weak, and as the less I drank, the less I could hear the voice, sort of thing. It was slowly dying.
Well, for me, it's got to be a daily attention, you know, and I recognize that. I'm rededicating myself to this because I know it's going to be so worth it when I can, you know, be sitting there talking about how I used to drink, and it's been a long time. So I want to say thanks to you for putting out those videos and whatnot. I haven't watched them all, but just to get insight from somebody who's gone through it, it's really beneficial. So thanks a lot for putting your stuff out.
It's the hardest in the beginning, you know. Once you get past the first few weeks and the first couple, you know, it just gets easier and easier as it goes along. The more time you put into it, the easier it gets. You know, it is filling up those times, the holes in your life that you used to drink, and now you've got nothing else to do, and you're wondering what to do, and have a plan for doing those things, and you know.
That's an interesting point because I keep reading people say you can't just quit a habit; you have to replace it.
Yeah, it's replacing it.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's like once you stop drinking, you've got that part of it out of the way. But then you've got all the time on your hands that you used to spend drinking. That you're sort of sat there. You know, the whenever you drink anything, it's like what you said about the water. It just doesn't do the same thing, but it doesn't last. that kind of thing. Just that's gone after a month, I'd say. Easy. It's not any more than once you start finding ways to fill your time. I don't think you have to go out and get a specific habit. I think you have to. It's sort of it's filling up the time with different things. Whatever that entails for yourself. I mean, for me, I was building up websites, so I just put myself into that, and I went out walking more, and just did different things like that. I got myself away from the couch in the evenings instead of sitting down watching TV, where I'd be sort of hankering after a drink. I stopped doing that. So yes, it's going to be different for everyone, but it is replacing habits with other things. So,
well, you mentioned a month. It just so happens that in 1 month exactly to the day, I'm running my first half marathon, and so I've told myself I've got to stop drinking between now and the run, because number one, it's going to help me tremendously, because you can't drink the amount that I do and then be able to run more than 10 kilometers, however many miles that is.
Yeah.
So I'm nervous right now. I'm thinking I should make this a public declaration, that I'm going to stop between now and then. And, it's like, you share your goals with people so that you're more accountable to achieve them.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about a month. There's something magical about that, just getting over that hurdle. I think it's just because it's a big milestone, isn't it? It's the first month. But yeah.
I knew somebody that was so proud of they had a coin from AA, I think, for going a month.
Yeah.
Like they got a medal or something like that. And there is something significant about that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is different strokes for different folks, and whatever path gets you there. I mean, there's more than one path, right? So,
absolutely.
But at some point, I don't know, I guess with some people, you got to take a hard line, or they have to take a hard line with themselves and slam their fist down and say, enough's enough. Just refuse. I refuse to go on the way I have been. Once you recognize that it's just not getting you to where you want to go, unless it's not that important. I mean, are you going to give up completely and then just, but I think just through evolution, we've got this drive to fight and to survive.
No matter which whether you do it through AA or you do it on your own, you still have to do it yourself. There's nobody else that can do it for you. You're the one that puts it in, and you're the one that doesn't put it in. So, it all boils down to that, basically, doesn't it?
I agree. I agree. It can't be a choice that you're doing for someone else.
No. So it's I think it's there's just so many people now that are having problems with it, and I think the internet is opening up different channels, and it's given me a place to sort of a voice on the internet, and I'm glad that people can not just me, but there's lots of different forums and websites, and I think there's more opportunities now to get different aspects of it, different perspectives than ever before. So
yeah, I do, absolutely, because if you're just hanging around people that are still caught in that pattern of consumption, or whatever you want to call it, it's more challenging to make a change. It's funny, I'm sitting here in the Western Canada, and you're in Spain, for Pete's sakes. And we've never met each other, only because we have this common interest that brought me to your site, and now we're chatting here. And I haven't done a lot of research online for other sites, but I mean, there must be forums or places where people can chat and work out their. I don't know. For me, it's beneficial. Maybe I'm a great candidate for the meetings. Who knows? But I'm still not going.
No. It was the same. I prefer to try and do things on my own, and the idea of being in a group, and some aspects of it I think would appeal to me, but the whole there's different just aspects of it that didn't appeal to me, so I won't go into them. I think people, anyone that's been to AA, they don't like hearing anyone being negative about it. So I try and avoid that as much as I can, or any of the other places. So, It's absolutely roasting here.
Oh, it's hot.
It's hot, yeah.
Okay, I keep forgetting it's the evening right now for you.
Yeah, it's just 7 o'clock in the evening, so yeah. What's the temperature like in your part of the world?
You guys are on the metric system?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're getting right now still in the summer. Where I'm living is like the best weather in Canada as far as the sunny days and less rain. We're getting up to 30 still, 30
Cool.
degrees Celsius.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, yeah. That's not too far behind us. I think today we were sort of 37, 38.
Oh wow.
Well,
Okay, that's hot.
well, we're right beside the sea, so there's a nice cool breeze. But my partner she works inland about 5 miles away, and yeah, it gets pretty hot there. You know, you see it in her face when she comes back.
Wow.
She's had a hard day, you know. so yeah.
Well, yeah, one thing I'm going to do is definitely look at more of your material on the website. And I mean, I'm thinking if there's anything else I can contribute, if you got any other questions for me, I'd be happy to answer those. And hopefully I can write in to you in like 30 days and say, hey, I did the marathon and I was good with my consumption.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. No, I think that I had a few questions all lined up, but I think it was just nice to have the chat. I think there's, better off being not too formal and stuff. I'm trying to get a few people onto the podcast, you know, but it's difficult to get people to talk about. I think it's understandable as well. You know, people don't want to. It's one of those things where it's only when you quit and you sort of say, well, I'm giving up drinking, that people start. Only then they start to see that you've got a problem, you know, which is a weird outlook, you know. Is when you take the drug, you've got no problem, but when you give it up, I don't know.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that because I feel in some ways that I'm sort of hiding behind the anonymity of the internet. You know, I'm speaking into a microphone, but nobody can see my face.
No.
And even still with that, I shudder to say I have a problem with booze, and the fact is that's the truth. I mean, it's so admitting it is.
Well, it's a weird thing in that, you know, there's so many people. I had an interview for a job, and this guy was telling me, you know, when I told him about the website, and I'd been off alcohol for over a year, and he said, well, what about your drinking? You know, I said, what about it? He says, well, you know, like, are you going to be able to do the work? I said, no, I don't drink anymore, you know. But he, you know, like if I'd have gone to him 2 years before when I was drinking 20 pints a day, and I hadn't said, well, you know, I've got a serious heavily drinking problem, then there would have been no issue, you know. But because I told him that I didn't drink anymore, there was this, you know. So it's topsy turvy, you know. It's a different. I don't understand it. So, you know, I think that's funny. It's one of the biggest things is people have that stigma with giving up, and they don't want to actually say, well, I've got a problem with alcohol, and you haven't. Once you stop drinking, there's no problem anymore, you know. That's the way I think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I'll say this anyways for the record. If at some point in the future you wanted to have another call and just structure it a little bit differently, I'm totally open to that.
Yeah, brilliant.
You know, I get something selfish out of it. It's going to help me.
Yeah.
So
cool. That sounds good. Well, I suppose we'll wrap it up then.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it was a great chat. If there's any questions or anything else, I'd be happy to spend the time. But on the other side of things, I appreciate your time, and as I mentioned before, I appreciate your site. I haven't looked at everything, but I will at some point, because just being in there and having association, even though, you know, you're not there when I'm watching the videos, but it's still getting somebody else's perspective. They've been there, they've gone through it, and it's one path, you know, it's one way. And so I think I can learn from that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that. It's, any help I can give you in the future, just let me know.
I think it's fabulous that you're writing a book, and I'm going to look at the one that you mentioned by Alan Carr, but I'm sure you'll post on your site when your book is out. I will definitely support you and pick that up.
It's out there now. It's in the sidebar, so you know you can. Anyone wants to get it, it's just click on the link there. Listen, thanks a lot for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, and thank you, Kevin. Like I said, anytime I'd be happy to come back and chat about my successes.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, if you get through the month, then we'll do one then, hey? That's it.
No, I would do that. Lock me in. Then that way I've got even one more person that I've, it makes it more real for me.
Cool.
So,
listen, thanks very much for your time. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, you're welcome, and we'll chat with you soon.
Brilliant. All right, then, Al. Take care of yourself.
You bet. Take care, Kevin. Bye.
All right, bye. So that was that. My first foray into interviewing, and thank you very much to Al for coming on and putting up with me. Now I'm going to try and get some more people on over the next few months. Interspersed between that, you'll have to put up with just me talking. So if there's anyone out there that wants to come onto the show and be a guest on the show, then give me a shout at kevin@alcoholmastery.com. So I'll see you all on Tuesday in the regular video spot. So until then, I'm Kevin O'Hara for Alcohol Mastery. Onwards and upwards. Okay, welcome today. This is the first interview that I've done, and actually this interview was recorded about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and just because a few things were happening on the website in the last few weeks, I haven't had a chance to put it up. But it was a recording of just a conversation that I had with a gentleman from Canada called Al. I haven't had a chance to get back to him since we recorded the session, so I don't know how he is at the moment. I hope you're doing well, Al. At the time, he was off the alcohol for about 4 days. So have a listen to the interview, and I'll see you at the end. No, so I mean, if I say, well, yeah, okay, you're the first person that's been on the podcast, so welcome aboard, Al from Canada. So yeah, you were asking me about my son, and he's 23, and it's the worst thing for me at the moment because he still drinks, you know. I've just asked him tonight. I had a conversation with him and asked